Get started with PDFs. In this module, we'll get familiarized with the high-level setup of Advanced PDF and how these features apply to the different facets of your business. We'll also tackle what preferences affect the overall outcome of the printing process. By the end of this module, we should be able to generate PDF printouts using built-in templates inside of NetSuite, understand what are the different settings that affects printouts, i.e., company and customer preferences, and finally, identify what are the different templates that are available for your common business workflows. To be able to use the advanced printing feature in NetSuite, one of the first things we need to make sure of is that we are using a customized form. We'll see how we can do that in a later demonstration. In this part, we'll see different applications of advanced PDF templates on your day-to-day operations using NetSuite. What we have here is your typical estimate to cash workflow, starting from estimate up to the cash sale record. For estimates, we can generate a document off of that and use different field values from the record and print them out to the PDF. Same goes for the sales order record type, but with the addition of picking tickets and item labels, which in turn can be used in your fulfillment process, which comes next. For item fulfillment, you can generate multiple documents like packing slip, shipping, and item labels, which when printed out can be attached to your shipments. Lastly, for cash sales, you can only print a single document type, which is the cash sale record itself. In this illustration, we see the invoice to item receipt workflow, in which an invoice or payment PDF can be produced and sent over to the appropriate recipient via its preferred receiving method. While for customers who opted to return their purchases, you can send them a copy of the return authorization PDF. Finally, for the item receipt, you can only print item labels from this record. In this walkthrough, we'll customize a transaction form and attach an advanced PDF template into this form. In this walkthrough, we're going to print two versions of the expense report PDF, and let's start with opening the list of expense reports. Inside the expense report list, open one transaction. And inside of this expense report page, click the print button. What you see here is a basic expense report PDF printout containing your date, expense report number, employee, the list of line items inside of the expense report, and the total at the end. Now, this is a very archaic and old style of printing PDF, and we're going away from this and go to the advanced PDF printing capability. We can do that by going back to the expense report. And before anything else, remember we need to do two things. We need to ensure two things. One is to use a customized form, and two, apply that custom form to the transaction. Now, in order to do that, let's go to Customize, Customize Form. Inside the custom transaction form, let's put a name on this form. For the ID, for printing type, make sure it's always selected to advanced, because if not, if you select basic, we'll just see the same basic expense report PDF that we saw earlier. So after ensuring that, click Save. And go back to the expense report transaction again. And print this transaction. But wait, we're seeing the same old expense report standard PDF. So let's see what's wrong. Go back again to the expense report. And in order to check what custom form or what form this transaction uses, click Edit. And we still see that it's using the standard expense report form. Click the drop down, select the Suite Dreams expense report, allow the page to refresh, and then click Save. Once you click Save, this alert box or this warning box tells us that the record has not changed. Do you really want to submit it? Just click OK. And after saving, click the print button again. Now, for the very first time, we're seeing a more advanced, a more presentable expense report PDF, complete with your logo, your company name, your company address, your expense report, your transaction title here, the expense report number, the expenses total included in the header, your employee name, and the line items here at the main section of the page. And at the end, you have here the expenses total. Compared to what we have seen earlier, right here, I would say that this one is much more presentable and can be sent directly to your clients, to your vendors, or whoever you want it sent over. So again, just to recap, we have customized the form, used the advanced printing option, and finally, engage the expense report transaction to use that custom form that we have just made. In the following slides, we'll see what are the different settings that affect the printing and email behaviors of Advanced PDF and NetSuite as a whole. In this illustration, we see on the left side two company-level settings. First is the print preferences, and the second one is the email preferences. Note that these two are checkboxes which determine if a new customer's send transactions via checkbox field is checked for print and email, respectively. It is also worth noting that this applies to vendors too. We'll see how this impacts the overall workflow once we jump into the demonstration. Referencing those two checkboxes on the previous slide, those two affects newly created transactions for customers or vendors. Say, for example, if the send transactions via print checkbox is checked, all new created sales order for that customer will have its to be printed checkbox checked under the communication messages subtab. Moreover, the transaction will also be automatically queued for printing. The following diagram shows how customer preferences always overrides the value selected inside the preferences page for email attachments. This means that if a customer prefers PDF attachments, while you as a user prefers HTML, a PDF attachment will still be sent because it prioritizes the customer's preferences over the user. Meanwhile, if it's set to default, it will just use whatever the user's preferred setting. The effects of all preferences previously discussed comes down to this. If a transaction is to be printed, then it will appear on the transactions print checks and forms page, ready for printing. Meanwhile, if it's to be printed, a copy of the transaction document will be sent immediately after saving via email. In this walkthrough, we'll try to produce two versions of the printout, one in PDF and another one in HTML. On top of that, we'll also touch on how we can navigate around the system and observe the connections between all the settings discussed. First, we go to the print preferences, the setup, company, printing and fax, and inside of this page, let's focus here on the customer's default to print transactions. This checkbox, when checked, ensures that all newly created customers have their send transaction via print checkbox automatically checked. Let's see how that affects us once we create a new customer. Click Save. And create new customer. Click the New Customer button. Input a company name here. And an email as well. Select the subsidiary, West, and under the Preferences subtab, look at the Send Transactions via Print checkbox. It's automatically checked. That is because of the preferences we just checked earlier. Now we save this customer. And after creating a customer, let's now create a new sales order for that customer. Okay, all of the fields are populated, so we just have to create one line item. Handcrafted. Click Add. And under the Communication subtab, we see the To Be Printed checkbox is also automatically checked. And this is because of the Send Transaction Via Print checkbox checked inside of the customer record. Now let's see what operation can be done next because of this checkbox here. Again, just reviewing, go to Items, we have our own line item, at least one. All of the necessary fields populated. Click Save. All right, so the sales order is now created. We go to Transactions then, Management. And since we have queued up the sales order for printing, we can go to Print Checks and Forms page. Under this sales order link, we can see the sales order queued up in this queue, ready to be printed. We don't have to filter this out further, but instead let's just check this checkbox here and click Print. Now we see the sales order printed in Advanced PDF format. We can of course customize this layout further, and we'll talk about that in later modules. Now it's your turn. It is now time for you to complete your hands-on exercises for this module. Please refer to your student guide to complete the required exercises. This concludes Get Started with PDFs.